right, we'll get started here. In case you don't know me, my name is Kevin Woods with Roush Fenway Racing. First of all, we're very excited about the news that we have today, but in some ways it's equally exciting to see many of you together here in this room in person. It's been a long time since we've been able to do that and have that, and it's wonderful to see you all, and hopefully we'll get to visit with everybody. We also want to thank all the people listening. This is streaming live on NASCAR.com and on SiriusXM, NASCAR Radio as well. So what I'm going to do is introduce our guests here on the stage, and then I'm going to turn it over to Steve for the news. So starting with Steve, we have the president of Roush Fenway Racing, Mr. Steve Newmark. From Fenway Sports Group, the Executive Vice President, Corporate Strategy and General Counsel, Mr. Ed Weiss. A man that needs no introduction, we have NASCAR Hall of Fame, right here in the Hall of Fame, team owner Jack Roush. And then we are very pleased to be joined today by NASCAR champion driver Brad Keselowski. Steve?
Thank you, Kevin. Before I kick it off, I want to take a moment to express our gratitude to the NASCAR media and all the industry participants that joined us here. I know a lot of you guys were up in New Hampshire this past weekend, and probably more importantly, we're leading into one of the very rare and few off weekends that we have during the season, and it means a lot that you guys showed up to join us for this. And then, of course, want to thank Winston and the whole Hall of Fame staff. There's just not a better setting for us to do something of this magnitude. So what we're here to do, and I'm extremely thrilled to announce, or maybe based on the rampant speculation, it's more appropriate to say that I'm thrilled to confirm that Roush Fenway Racing and Brad Keselowski will be starting a partnership in 2022. And this is an unbelievably unique arrangement for us, and it's something that in our mind kind of solidifies and fortifies our future and guarantees that we're going to be at the top and trying to excel for decades to come. And so the transaction essentially has kind of three pieces. That's why we kind of say it's a little bit different than the normal arrangement that we've entered into in the past. And the first is that Brad will be behind the wheel of the number 6 car starting in 2022 and will pilot that vehicle for years to come. He will also be purchasing a minority ownership stake in the company. So along with Roush Industries and Jack and the Fenway Group, that triumvirate will lead us from a strategic perspective for years to come. And then very importantly, Brad will also be assuming a leadership mantle at our organization. Even while he's driving, he will be on the competition committee, and then once his driving career runs its course, whenever that may be, and whenever he decides that that's the time, he will shift over into an even greater role leading our competition side. And so, from our perspective, this is the next step in the evolution of our team, and we're extremely confident that this is going to facilitate and allow us to excel for years to come. Before I pass it back to Kevin, I really do want to express to Brad and Paige and the girls how excited the Roush Fenway family is to be bringing the whole Keselowski group into our team, and we're really excited to have an anchor for our organization for decades to come.
All right, what we'll do here is we'll hear from everyone up here, and then we will take questions from the media. We'll do our best to accommodate. As Steve said, we are very thankful that everyone joined us here today. We'll do everything we can to accommodate each of your needs. But your general questions, if we can get that taken care of here in a minute, and then what we need after that, we'll break out and figure out what we need to do. But first of all, Steve, can you just talk about how this came together with Brad?
Sure. So this is, as you can probably appreciate, was not a short kind of reactive process. This has been something that has been kind of brewing and coming together over months. And in fact, it really stemmed from the fact that Brad and I have been friends over the years in the garage, and over those years, we've regularly gotten together a couple times a year just to talk about the state of the sport, talk about the direction, whether that's the charter system, stage racing, and particularly in my prior role with the Team Owner Council, I relied quite a bit on Brad for input from the driver's side. And I think, as many of you know, Brad is one of the more kind of cerebral, thoughtful drivers in the garage, and I really valued his opinion. And so it was sometime in the fall, we were having one of those conversations, and Brad asked what the Roush Fenway ownership group thought about the next-gen transition. So there was a lot of focus on where we were headed with next-gen. And I was able to tell him unequivocally that from the Fenway and the Roush perspective, we think next gen is a pivot point for the sport and is one that our owners are committed to investing and continuing to build upon. And I think more importantly, stepping back, we talked about how our ownership group really believes that NASCAR is going in the right direction and really bullish on the future. And a lot of that stems from the leadership provided by Jim France, Steve Phelps, and Steve O'Donnell, and a lot of the initiatives around next gen, scheduling, social initiatives, esports. And so we talked a lot about the future and why we were coming up with 5 and 10-year plans, but we actually also explained that there was kind of a hole in our strategy going forward, in that one of the things that we were looking for at Roush Fenway is a more solid succession plan. As Jack has told me from day one, it's his goal that this company exists long beyond when he's working 24 hours a day to make the cars go faster. And so I said that's what our primary focus was. At the same time, Brad explained kind of where he was from a career position and started to describe that he loved driving, and that's obviously his primary goal, is to win championships now. But importantly, he was looking at what was beyond that. And he had always aspired to be a leader and make sure that he stayed in the sport, and he agreed with the narrative about where the sport was going. And so that really started a series of dialogues about a potential partnership. And it wasn't something that we just jumped into. There was actually no ownership even discussed in the first several meetings. And over the next few months, I socialized it with our board. And I think what was really important to our board was, it's obviously a win if you can get a Hall of Fame driver to get behind the wheel of one of your cars. That's always going to make your organization better. But from our perspective, what was more important was the leadership skills that Brad brings. And if you look at his history and his career, he was essentially discovered by Dale Jr., started at Junior Motorsports, and at the time, they hadn't won on the racetrack, and Dale and Brad, and I'm sure many others, worked together to help elevate that organization, which is now one of the premier Xfinity teams in there. The same thing with Penske Racing. Obviously, Brad joined Roger and Walt, Tim, and Bud, and one of the premier motorsports organizations globally, and he helped to elevate along with that team to championships, wins, and we've all seen the success that they've had. And I think that was what was so appealing to our organization, was that Brad could bring that type of leadership and vision and would work with Jack going forward to make sure that we stayed at the top of our game.
I guess on that note, we'll take it over to you, Brad. Can you talk about why this made so much sense for you to do this, and really how excited you are to get moving on this next chapter?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Kevin, and great comments, Steve. I'd like to start by saying thanks to the fans that are in attendance here today. I had no idea there was going to be so many of you, and I'm really thrilled to see that. Now, there's a lot of people wearing 2 shirts and 2 hats that will eventually get you converted over to number 6. That'll be a little bit of a change, but we're glad to have you, and appreciate you joining this ride with me. I'd echo Steve's sentiments with respect to the media. Thank you for your time here today. I understand a lot of people are enjoying these, at least in the NASCAR media, a few weeks that we have off, and maybe cut short some vacation schedules and so forth, but thank you for making that time and the commitment. So I really appreciate that. Thank you to Mr. Jack for this opportunity. The confidence that you've shown to allow me to have this is really remarkable, and I appreciate it very much. Along with Mr. John Henry and to you, Mr. Ed Weiss, and the whole Fenway team as well. The support and embrace that you guys have shown is a big part of the reason why this became a reality. And then I would be remiss to not recognize Team Penske, everything they've done for me and my career. I'm still competing with them, of course, through the 2021 season, with the goal of winning a championship. I want to leave Team Penske with a championship to come here to this new opportunity. And so full commitment to finishing the year out as strong as possible. I think hopefully you saw that this week at the racetrack in New Hampshire. We're still competing hard for wins and doing everything we can. And it's been a heck of a journey with Roger Penske and so forth, and the whole team. And I'm really proud of it. I'd be remiss to say I'm not a little bit sad to leave some great people and some great friendships. But I'm more so excited, of course, with this opportunity in front of me. It's an incredible opportunity. And, I think digging deeper into that, there's probably a lot of people wondering what I saw here that made it great, as you were asking, Kevin. And really, Steve talked a little bit about it, but there was 4 key components to me. the ability to have a long-term driving contract was something I valued. I want to stay at one place and be there for a long time, and hopefully for the rest of my career. I know that's the intent and goal. And that position was of course offered to me, as Steve articulated. The second position, which was really important to me, was to be in a leadership role, which to maybe explain that, we're forming a competition committee that I'm proud to be a part of leading. So that will come together and I think allow me the freedom to express myself creatively and to lead the company and team to be the best it can be. That was really critical to me, to be able to have more control over my overall destiny with respect to matters competition related. The third thing was, of course, the ownership position. That quite a unique opportunity that really excites me. Ownership is something I've always, I think, articulated to the fans and media. It was important to me long term. It represents growth for me personally and professionally, which is very important, and creates a deeper tie-in to really the fourth point, which is to have a role in this sport when I'm done driving. I'm standing here in the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and there's no irony lost on me that, a lot of the names that you see in here are still involved in the sport in some way, shape, or form past their driving career, but a lot are not. I cannot see a day where I'm done driving and I don't want to be a part of this sport. And this opportunity allows me just that, the ability to have a role in the sport past my driving career. So I think those four things were really critical to me. There were a lot of opportunities that were thrown at me, whether it be by Team Penske or other teams, but not one of them held a candle to this one. So I'm really excited about it. It was nothing short of a no-brainer for me to take this opportunity. And I know I have a lot of work in front of me. It's going to be tough. This team has won a lot of races, championships, and we have room to grow and to get better. No doubt. I'm committed to doing just that and recognize the challenge that's ahead. So that challenge, I know is going to be tough, but there's some things that give me confidence. I think first off, you look at one of the models for me to take on this opportunity was Tony Stewart and what he did with Stewart-Haas Racing. I think it was probably in a similar position when he joined. In fact, I was looking through the stats on it. He had the same amount of wins and was the same age when he moved over to Gene Haas's team. That was probably more by coincidence than choice. But clearly that shows that you can be successful with this type of arrangement. There's certainly quite a precedent there. Beyond that, of course, the next gen coming into the sport should be a significant reset for the technology, a significant reset for the way the processes flow, and some of those things that we would need to overcome. So I think kind of taking that down the course of NASCAR leadership and some of the things they have going on, a lot of confidence in where the sport's heading. I think we're on a big upswing, and I kind of feel like I'm buying into a stock as it's about to go up with looking at the landscape. I would add to it two more things that really add to our confidence that we can be successful. The front office here at Roush Fenway is exceptional. I was blown away by some of the things I saw, whether it be the relationship with the Fenway Group, with Fenway Sports Management, and their ability to really land blue chip sponsorships, and not just land them, but service them at a very high level, and be the kind of partner that represents them in such a form that they literally win awards and are recognized for it. So that is a key component to the success of the company. Everybody knows if you want to go fast, you got to spend money, and you got to have money to do it with, which means having great sponsors and partners that will help us invest in the team to do the things that are required to be successful. So that was pretty exciting to me. And then, probably the last point is, I feel like I've lived a lot of this experience before, as Steve iterated with the experience that I had at Junior Motorsports, coming there and being a part of seeing it become successful, and the founding of my truck team in 2010, and watching it grow into a company that could consistently win races, and even more so grow people. Starting next year, we'll have 5 full-time drivers in the Cup Series that came through that program, and probably dozens more permeate through the garage in different roles. Gosh, that was such an exciting thing to be a part of, and gives me confidence that we can do the same, and hopefully we'll retain them at the Cup level, but I'm really thrilled about that and the success we had with growing people. And then the last component, of course, is my time at Team Penske. I'm so proud to have been a part of that and to learn so many different lessons along the path. You know, I'm really proud of the fact that when I came to Team Penske, the car I got in was in similar position and points and standings to the one I'm going to get in next year. And in 2.5 years' time, we were able to win a championship. I carry those same expectations forward, and the expectations are very high. So I really think, all these things considered, I feel like we can be the best NASCAR team. And I'm coming here with an expectation no less than that, and ready to move forward to be a part of achieving that goal. And it starts right here. Today's the official announcement of that journey. Thanks for being a part of it, and I can't wait to get started.
Jack, let's move to you talking about this journey. Can you talk about this partnership, what it means to your legacy, and what made Brad the right person?
For 10 years, I'd watched Brad as he came into the sport, and he had to struggle and fight prejudice sometimes. He came from an outside region of the Southeast where NASCAR is born and operates most traditionally. But he fought his way in, and he earned the space to compete. He figured out what he needed to do to be a factor, and he competed for winning races successfully, and he competed to win his championship, and he's one of the top drivers in the sport. He's an inspiration to me for what he's done with his truck team. To put it in perspective, you know, we had our greatest success when we had 5 teams. And the bigger challenge would have been to have had one team and realize the improvements you needed to have in the parts and what the strategies need to be in order to keep the thing moving forward. But anyway, he was successful with his truck team, which was very impressive to me. He was competitive as a driver, going to the highest levels of the sport. And he in the meantime, initiated and started a aerospace manufacturing service company that got a great future, and so he's ready for his next challenge, which is participate in the ownership of a team. I welcome him as a partner and look forward to what we can do together. I'm been asked to say that I'm passing my baton to him, which I am, but I still have one hand on the thing, so I'm not going to give up completely for a while. There's no retirement plans for me in my immediate future. I intend to keep going to the racetracks the way I have, and to be as much of a nuisance and a distraction as I've been to my drivers and my crew chiefs in the past. But over a period of time, Brad will earn his independence, and he'll gain a significant position of ownership in the team. One of the things that's been a challenge for me is to answer the questions I've gotten over a period of time. When are you going to retire, and what's your ascension plan? Well, Brad Keselowski and the next-gen car and the things that we can do together in the near term and the future that we see long term is my retirement plan, and I just hope I can take lots of green flags and lots of checkered flags before we get there.
Ed, can you talk about how excited the folks at Fenway are about Brad becoming a big part of the team?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing that I would say is the partnership that the Fenway Group has with Jack, with Evan Lyle, and with Roush Industries has never been stronger. It's very rare that a 50-50 partnership can be in sports enduring and smooth, but this has been a very long and enduring and smooth relationship from the beginning. So I want to thank you, Jack, for that. I can't think of an issue where we've looked at it in different ways, and I really look like the selection and addition of Brad to this partnership is very much in the spirit of a smooth and enduring tradition. We, at our other teams, want to compete to win championships every year. That is our core DNA. We're very excited about the trajectory of this sport, but you have to be successful on the track. And I think this move is entirely motivated to getting us back to what the legacy, what Jack's legacy is of Roush Fenway, being in the hunt for a championship every year. So we're just thrilled to be part of it. Brad joined the enterprise.
All right, what we're going to do now, Wendy has the mic, so we'll open it up for questions. We'll go first to Claire B. there. And we'll go to Jordan.
Claire B. Lang, SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. You tweeted a few days ago a song by U2, With or Without You, and then you tweeted, if your dreams do not scare you, they are not big enough. Can you talk about that, Brad?
Well, this is a big challenge, but it's a big dream of mine to be an owner and a partner at the NASCAR level with, the right ownership group, and I think this is it. But, it's scary. I have a great team right now. I'm not going to say anything differently, and I've been very privileged to drive for Team Penske and to have the success we've had. It's tough to leave that, and I don't want to deny that in any shape or form. But this is a big dream of mine that was worth leaving it for. It's not an easy transition. I know the work is going to be hard, and that is scary, right? It's scary to leave something where you know you can be successful, to go to a new opportunity, but I believe in this opportunity. But we have to go do the work. It's not, nobody's going to give anything to us. We have to go work for it.
And Jack, right from the beginning, did you think that this was the right thing to do? Were you searching for other things? Did you need to do something at this stage? And when you came together with Brad, were you immediately like, yeah, this is right, we need this, or did it take convincing? And thank you.
Brad has distinguished himself by taking on more things than he needed to be successful as a driver and participate in NASCAR. His truck team was a big challenge, but he wanted to do that apparently in order to get get his legs under a team operation. And I can't say more about how impressed I am with his space-age manufacturing aerospace components. To take that on as a separate skill set and a totally different industry speaks volumes. So I look forward as Brad finishes his driving career, which hopefully will be not sooner than 5 years, and hopefully I'll stretch it. Like I did Mark Martin, I'll stretch it many more than that if I can. But, for him to be willing to think about not how he's going to spend his money and enjoy his time off after he stops racing, driving, but to have him think about what he could do is participate in the next level in the management of a team. And to enjoy bringing along young people to realize their dreams, to start their careers, and to have things develop so that they can have the security for their families and all. He's willing to be a participant and to make his mark in that as well. And so that those interests and those motivations fall in line with what I'd hope for my drivers. And I think it marks a path for other drivers and other owners to think about their legacy plans as the years advance. You can't do anything about the advancement of years. You just got to plan to make the most of them.
We'll go to Jordan.
Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. I have a couple questions. This one's for anybody who wants to answer on the stage. Brad is purchasing a minority stake in the organization. We know that Roush and Fenway are 50-50 partners. I'm curious if you can say how much of a stake Brad is purchasing in the team and where that stake is coming from.
Sure, I'll take this one. As you guys have heard me say before about financial matters or contract matters, we generally don't get into the details on that, but he is obviously purchasing minority interest, and where it's coming from is a little bit interesting. He's not actually buying it technically from Roush or Fenway. Both of the existing owners have said, hey, we want to maintain our stake and keep going. It's being issued by the company, and the way that we look at it is we have basically 3 partners operating going forward, and the way that we've always done it, as Ed mentioned, it has not depended on who owned what piece or how it was a consensus direction on how we move forward, and that's what we fully expect with Brad, Jack, and Fenway as we go forward. We actually think it's just going to make us better and enhance us getting to the next level.
And the second question, this is for Brad. Brad, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but how much of a reconciliation did you kind of have to make of saying, hey, I'm leaving an organization where winning in championships and races is an annual thing almost, for an organization who is probably going to need a little bit of work to get to that level?
Yeah, I mean, there's a workload associated with it that, honestly, I'm excited about. So the reconciliation is, it's certainly there. But, I think with the next-gen car, That's going to make that, a heck of a lot easier. We have a whole bunch of other plans that we're working on that we're not ready to announce that I feel confident will be a part of that as well. But ultimately, it's going to come down to three things: resources, people, and processes. The resources are always shifting, and the next-gen car represents that shift. So there's a little bit of a level set there. The people are always changing and growing, and we'll continue to work with that. And, we want to build a culture that has successful processes. So, all those things have to come together to be an elite team. And there's a lot of changes in the marketplace that make the timing of this the best it possibly could be. So, I know nothing happens overnight with respect to making the performance where we want it to be, but if ever there was a landscape to expedite that process, this is it.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. Steve, following up on the, I know you guys don't disclose financial considerations here, but is it fair to describe this stake that Brad is getting as like XX percentage of the team? I mean, is that what you mean by minority owner? He has like a certain amount of Roush Fenway?
Yeah, absolutely. He's buying a minority percentage of the team, and the hope and expectation is that may grow over the years as well.
Yeah, following up on that, you said after he's done with driving, he could have a bigger role. Would that include a bigger percentage of the team? And could that include possibly, would there ever be a chance for renaming the team with Brad?
So as far as what the future holds, I think what Brad and I have talked is that he's going to drive as long as he's competitive. And if you look at where he is, he's actually in the prime of his career from an age perspective in NASCAR, which is why it was so thrilling for us to be able to have him come join our team next year. Once we get to that point about when he says, hey, it's time for me to pass the reins to another driver, we've got a structure set in place where he'll assume a greater leadership role. But a lot of those details we don't think are relevant now because they're so far off into the future. And then we'll kind of see how things evolve. But one of the things that has been most appealing to us about this transaction is we now have 5, 10, 15-year strategic plans about how we're going to keep growing, getting better. The owners have committed to continue to invest in the sport around next gen, upgrading facilities. And so, for us, it really gives us a runway that we think will allow us to excel.
Would you consider adding his name to the team name eventually?
There's a whole host of things that we're going to be changing, structure, our partners and all this. And what we've kind of said is that we're going to kind of get through this announcement since it's been brewing for quite some time. And then we'll circle back with everybody on a lot of the details about what things will look like in 2022 in the coming months.
And for Brad, how long do you want to drive? And did you make any effort to keep the 2?
Did I make any effort? Well, the 2 number is Roger Penske's, so that would not be my place. And honestly, if I look at the legacy of Jack Roush and the company, the 6 comes first to mind, right? So I would say that the answer to that is no. How long do I want to drive? As long as I can compete to win races and championships. I feel like I have at least a 5-year runway, if not a 10 to 15-year runway, if I start lifting weights like Mark did. And I'm committed to just that. I want to win races and win championships as long as I'm capable to do so.
Bob Pockers, Fox Sports. Following up on that, Brad, did you ever consider asking for the 29?
In the back of my mind, yes, but quite honestly, in order to live up the legacy that Jack has set, I think the 6 number is, it shows that I'm bought into the company, and I don't particularly feel like I want to force matters of that type at this time as much as I want to be a part of the team and show that I'm a team player and part of living up to Jack's legacy and continuing it for years to come.
And I guess this would be for Steve. I mean, where does this leave the current driver of the 6, Ryan Newman?
Sure, I think it's a very fair question under the circumstances. And just to rewind a little bit, when Brad and I were first having these discussions, and then when it was ultimately consummated in March, we talked a lot about expansion. And we actually explored whether adding a 3rd team would be the right direction for us, and kind of looked at the charter market, which has obviously been appreciating quite a bit recently. And we ultimately decided that the best path for Roush Fenway and for us to achieve our goals next year would be to remain at 2 teams. And so I was communicating regularly with Ryan, and I will tell you, ever since we brought Ryan on board several years ago, he has done every single thing that we've asked of him. He came into the company, he helped us get to the playoffs in his first year, he helped elevate our competition meetings, and then obviously in his second year he was on the cusp of winning the Daytona 500, only a couple hundred yards away, and that didn't end the way that we wanted to and kind of threw that season out of whack. And although we haven't met our expectations this year, we've been unbelievably appreciative of what he's done. And so, I've talked to Ryan regularly as recently as yesterday, and, we've talked to him about whether he'd be interested in a part-time role with us, kind of what he wants to do next year. And I think it's fair to say that he's still trying to make that decision on what's his best path and what his best course is. And so I don't think he has a timeline on deciding, when he's going to kind of solidify his plans for 2022.
And for Jack, did you feel that you had to do something soon or now as far as finding somebody else to kind of invest in the team and have that succession plan?
The timing is certainly good. The reset that's going to occur for the next-gen car creates an opportunity to look at the process and look at the allocation of resources and think about the things that will be different. I know when you look at what it's going to mean to the individual team members, the job descriptions of what they do is going to change. We had a discussion with the management of the team yesterday about the tire changers. It used to be that the most important thing for a tire changer was his hand speed. And looking at the one fastener per wheel that we're going to have for 2022, I think that the leg speed, the ability to move quickly around the car is going to be more important than the hand speed. So as we look at the talents that individuals have got and what the new car is going to require, it's a time to make a reset and to change the priorities and figure out to optimize our situation for the future. But Brad has indicated his willingness to take the role of being part of the Racing Council as we make the decisions as a team, not for me unilaterally decide what we're going to do in a specific area, but to mouth it and weigh it and to make a decision together from what's important, what appears to be important from the driver's seat, what's important from the management at the racetrack, and what's important for the management in the shop. So the reset's real important. I think we're organized for it. It's a great time to make the addition of a championship driver like Brad. And of course, it gives me a chance to think about not having this thing end when I can no longer function in the team, but to have it to continue on for the benefit of the people and their families and the other things that the industry that supports it for the community.
Peter Stroud at TSJ Sports. Brad, the one crown jewel you haven't won is the Daytona 500. 2 years ago, well, last year, 2 Roush cars were about to finish in the top 5 in the 500, and then this year you were within a mile of the victory. Is next year your best shot to win the 500?
It's hard to say that next year's the best shot, but it's a great shot. I think one of the strengths of the program today is that the Super Speedway program. No doubt Jimmy Fenning is an excellent leader for that side. It's one of the areas of strength for sure of the company, and I expect we'll be able to go to Daytona and Talladega and immediately contend for a win. So I'm looking to fire off very strong, yes.
Seth Egger, kicking the tires. This is for Brad and for Jack. You've talked a little bit about succession plans. Do you feel like there is a youth movement among the ownership in NASCAR?
I guess I'll fire that one off unless you want to start with that one. Okay. Yeah, I feel like there's a season of change, no doubt. I don't see a lot of the ownership going away, but I see, some fresher faces. You look at Jeff Gordon kind of taking a more active role with Hendrick Motorsports, and you have the Trackhouse transition with Ganassi, and there's probably a few more to come, no doubt. And so I think it's natural over time to see those transitions. I think it's a good sign for the sport that it's, going through a little bit of a metamorphosis, and I'm proud to be a part of it. I hate to speak for other teams, though, and what their plans are, but I think it's a good sign for NASCAR that the owners are reinvesting in some way, shape, or form and remain committed.
I think we're headed out of the dark ages for the business side of the sport, where any person that knew a lot about the operation of the teams and the competitive challenges would have taken smart money and invested it in the sport. But now we're seeing new owners come in with the next-gen cars reset. We're seeing new owners come in, and I think that Brad's not the last of drivers that will say, well, they'd like to have a piece of the action once they get out of the driver's seat.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Brad, with the leadership position in the competition department, how do you envision that role? And is it a case of, certainly this is an organization trying to make the playoffs. Do you come in and be, I guess, the tough guy and say, here are the ideas and I'm going to be the guy to shake things up? Or how do you try to work within the system since you're the big pivot point in all this?
Well, I think, Dustin, it's a critical role for me, and it was a critical role for me in joining the team, no doubt. I think that really comes down to the style of management that you have. And, I'm a big believer in servant leadership. A lot of my intention is, yes, to hold people accountable, as any leader does, but more so to serve, and to serve the team and helping them get what they need to be the best they can be. And that means being an active listener as much as, setting direction, but helping them achieve their goals and helping them tell us what to do. There's the old Steve Jobs saying, we hire smart people so they can tell us what to do, not so I can tell them what to do. And I'm a big believer in that. So there's, certainly some work to be done in that area, and I've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, so it's a pretty easy ratio.
Jim Utter, motorsport.com. For Brad and Steve or Jack, if you'd like to comment on it, it's kind of related to Dustin's question. You talked about the Tony Stewart model at Haas. One of the things at Stewart-Haas was not only did Tony Stewart go there, but because Tony Stewart went there, he attracted a lot of top talent in other areas across the whole organization. Do you foresee something similar to that happening at Roush Fenway?
Yeah, I think, Jim, first off, hats off to Tony. What he did over there was amazing. And I don't know if he's ever gotten the credit that he rightfully deserves. He took that company that had never won a race and, again, in 2.5, 3 years' time, won a championship with it. That was so impressive. This team, I think, is quite a bit ahead of that position that Tony entered. So I don't think it'll be as tough of a road. And of course, the next-gen reset and all those things should certainly play a factor in it. But one of the key things, to your point, Jim, is Tony did an amazing job of bringing in key talent. And I think we're always looking at talent. Things will change, teams change, companies change over time, and people go different places, and things like that happen. And I think our eyes and ears are open as talent becomes available at all times. And I'm hopeful that we'll continue to have an influx of talent with this announcement. It's one of the key reasons why we're here today, is to show the world that here's what we're doing and to make sure that we're attracting the best talent as it comes up.
Yeah, I think the short answer is absolutely that is our hope and expectation. And to piggyback on Dustin's question as well, our expectation is Brad is going to come in and inject new ideas and new thoughts and bring new innovations to us. Interesting, when I first shared what we were doing with Chris Buescher this spring, he looked at me and he said, Brad Keselowski is the driver that is most like Jack Roush in the garage. And it didn't quite connect for me right away, but what he basically said is he is unbelievably driven, relentless, but very analytical in how he thinks about things and the processes that he pursues to achieve his goals. And we've seen that just in the last couple weeks, couple days, when Jack and Brad have been talking and trying to sit down and sort out what's the right path for excellence in 2022. So my expectation and our hope is that Jack and Brad will continue to work on ways for us to take advantage of the shift into the next gen. And quite frankly, it won't be doing it the same way that we've been doing it the last few years.
One of the challenges that we had was getting this press conference moved as far back into the summer as we could. so that we'd have an opportunity to talk with people who might be considering a change that would be attractive to us, and we would be attractive to them. So we've definitely got our shingle out. You know, we're in the business to stay, and we're looking to reset and to move forward with the most aggressive attack at the rules changes and the hardware changes that the next-gen car has, and to reevaluate the skill sets and to look at making improvements and additions to our organization out of people that are at a point in their career where they're ready for a change, as Brad was.
Lee Spencer, RacingVoice.com. Brad, having visited the humble beginnings you grew up in that cinder block garage, and hearing the stories about you cleaning parts, running down to the convenience store for cigarettes and sodas for your dad and uncles, what does this moment mean to you?
Well, it's a huge moment. You know, I'll be honest, Lee, I never dreamed this big. You know, I've always been kind of a one step at a time guy, and you know, when I was a kid, my goal was just to be able to stay with my family and be a part of their racing business. And you know, life had other plans, and as I grew up, you know, I thought, man, if I could just have a career in NASCAR, that would be great. And then that turned into, if I could just win a race in NASCAR, that would be great. And then that turned into, hey, if I could just make it to the cup level, that would be great. Next thing I knew, I was 4 races in and I'd won a cup race. And I was thinking, you know what would be nice is if I could have a full-time ride and win a championship. And, you know, so those goals have always kind of, you know, elevated, and I imagine they always will. And this one was, you know, the natural transition from winning a championship and being a part of, you know, building a winning company at Team Penske. Surely not the only reason, but a part of it. And so this is the next evolution for me. This is the next growth. And quite honestly, I never had any expectation that these opportunities would happen. I've always believed in trying to align yourself for good things to happen, whether that's, you know, the way you train yourself and how you're constantly reinvesting, or to other things. And, you know, whether it be the Truck Series team or the manufacturing business, those were moves made very intentionally to align myself for an opportunity like this. But quite honestly, I had no idea this opportunity was going to happen. When it came, though, I knew I was ready for it. And I feel like this is, yeah, there's some parts of it that are scary, without a doubt. It's a challenge. It's not going to be easy. But I've been studying my whole life to be ready for this moment, and I'm ready for the test.
Thank you. And will you turn your Tigers hat in for a Red Sox cap now?
Well, we haven't had that discussion yet. Right now, there's a lot more to cheer for in Boston than there is in Detroit, so I think I'll remain a fair weather fan for years to come.
Deb Williams, RacingToday.com. I have 2 questions, one for Brad and one for Jack. First, Brad, kind of building on what Lee asked, you saw what your parents went through owning a team, the financial struggles, then you owned a truck team. Now you've kind of gone through the Penske School of Management. What have you learned in all of this that will benefit coming to Roush Fenway as a minority owner?
Well, a tremendous amount, Deb. I think, you know, as I was talking with my opening remarks, I brought up the strength of the front office at Roush Fenway today, and specifically the ability to leverage the Fenway Sports Management Group. But beyond that, this is a very strong front office group in general, and that's super important. My strengths are not in that particular category, and this company has a strength there that I think aligns with what I would probably recognize as a weakness for myself. And so with respect to that, you know, I think that gives me the freedom to focus very heavily on the competition side, to be able to affect change, create a culture of excellence that's really important to our success, and still have the confidence that we can be a viable, sustainable business for decades to come. And I think Mr. Jack Roush has had a similar approach that's been very successful and led to a lot of success to date along those same terms.
Thank you. And Jack, you've mentioned a few times about Brad's other business on the side, his aerospace business. And you've always had Roush Industries in addition to your race team. And Roush Industries is phenomenal, having toured it. Because of Brad having his side business in addition to racing, do you see Brad as a young you in the drive that you had in building so much of an empire?
When I look at Brad, I think about the things I went through at the years that he's put in so far, and I see a lot of similarity in the way he's accepted challenge and the things he was motivated to do. You know, I started my Roush Industries business in 1976, and that was years before I started my NASCAR business in 1988. But it was the idea that people asked me why I was doing NASCAR racing when I was 46 years old and I'd had a good success record, drag racing winning championships, road racing winning championships. And I said, because I thought I could. And I think the reason Brad is wanting to grab a hold of this tiger's tail and to whip it into shape is that he thinks he can. And I'm cheering for him because he's got energy at his age that I expended at my age that we're anxious to see how he can do with it going forward.
Thank you.
Hey there, Alexandra with the Charlotte Observer. This is just one practical question, I guess, for Brad, but when is your official start date now that this announcement is out? And how, is there going to be any overlap with Roush in the next 3 to 4 months, I guess?
Yeah, I think right now, first off, I will not start this role until the season's over in 2021. I have commitments and contracts with Team Penske that I fully intend to honor at the highest level possible. So there will certainly be a time period here where is it the Darrell Waltrip term, frenemies? So we're competing against each other with an expectation that we each have individually to beat each other. And then certainly we'll come back together, but when that time is right. So certainly an interesting dynamic. I don't think in any other sport you compete against the team you're about to join, at least not that I know of. So it is a unique relationship, but we all have contracts and obligations that we need to fulfill at this current time.
We'll go to Lewis. In that role, we'll do the bingo, right?
This for Steve. Louis Franco, Reuters. Brad mentioned that perhaps after this announcement, there'll be some applicants for jobs. Who gets to review the resumes? And I'm not applying, just curious.
Well, like anything, we've got a wonderful sport, but everybody lives together, right? So if you compare us to stick and ball sports where the teams are scattered around the country, our whole industry is right here. So there's always discussions going on between different teams as people try to recruit and upgrade their talent. We are very blessed to have a phenomenal foundation at Roush, and we've got a lot of unbelievable folks that work under the Roush Fenway umbrella, but I think as with any team, you can't be stagnant, and we've got to keep trying to get better. And the nice thing is that as we go into the next-gen world, we're not going to be contracting. We don't envision our workforce getting smaller, even though there's a lot of efficiencies with next-gen. For us to get where we need to be, we're looking to expand, and so we'll be adding positions. And so those will come in through all different channels, but ultimately, particularly at the highest levels, you'll have, Jack and Brad will be making the call on the direction that we go on the competition side.
Steve Richards with PRN. Brad, how did you break the news to Roger? When did it happen? How did that meeting go? And I assume it was face-to-face.
Yeah, I was able to, have that conversation with him, and that wasn't an easy conversation, I think, for either side, and it was, for me at least, a tough kind of goodbye in some terms, but, I think Mr. Penske was, a consummate professional, and I think he understood, and I know he's spoke to a lot of you guys already about that, but certainly wasn't an easy conversation, but, part of the process, and I was glad I got to be able to talk to him.
Alan Cavana, similar, piggybacking off that question, did you express those 4 things you wanted to Roger Penske, and was there a frustration or a point where you realized it wasn't going to happen and your future wouldn't be there?
Yeah, I think that it was, pretty well known, and, I would hesitate to get into any detail about any negotiations I had with Roger Penske because, ultimately the ship has kind of sailed. But I want to express the gratitude I have more so than anything else for the opportunities he provided me to date, and don't want to leave with any other emotion besides that.
All right, if that concludes our questions, we'll do a few photos up here. I think Steve wanted to...
Sure. Again, want to thank everybody for taking the time, but want to express some special gratitude to Mr. Jim France. I think it is a testament to his passion to the sport. We see it in the garage every day about how much he cares and how much of his time he dedicates to the future of this sport. And I think you guys get to see a glimpse of it, that he came up from Florida just to stand in his usual spot in the back of the room to make sure that he supports us and that he understands that the sport is in good hands going forward. So thank you. And with that, I think we will break. And
thank you.